Greetings, my dear friend. I am very happy that you are watching my video, and I will be even happier if you subscribe to my channel. This will make me even happier. Let's get started. Kathy's lawyer stood up, his voice steady and clearly practiced. Your Honor, my client is seeking counseling in hopes of repairing their marriage. She believes that with appropriate support, their relationship can be restored. Without hesitation, my attorney rose, confidence evident in his tone. Your Honor, Mr. Porter has made it clear he does not wish to reconcile. The evidence is undeniable. Mrs. Porter has engaged in multiple extramarital affairs and is now expecting a child from one of these men. My client plans to move forward with the divorce. A low murmur swept through the courtroom, whispers mirroring the disbelief I felt about how things had unfolded. I clenched my hands, keeping a composed expression. I needed to stay strong. Kathy's lawyer resumed, though now a hint of desperation was noticeable in his voice. While my client acknowledges past mistakes, she believes counseling could provide closure and mutual understanding, possibly healing some of the pain. Frustration rose within me. I leaned in slightly, my tone calm but firm. Your Honor, I respect the court's time. Yet I am unwilling to participate in counseling. Too much has happened, and this marriage cannot be salvaged. My only wish is to finalize the divorce. Kathy's lawyer went over his notes once again before addressing the judge again. Your Honor, beyond the marriage itself, the well-being of the unborn child must be considered. My client insists that counseling is essential to ensure stability and support for everyone involved, particularly the baby. My attorney shifted uneasily, but stayed silent, waiting for my cue. My anger could no longer be contained. I stood up, words spilling out before I could control them. I do not intend to raise that child who is not mine, a child brought into this world through deception. That dishonest person with the number 304 should find the real father and let him take responsibility. I refuse to take part in any counseling with that woman. Mr. Porter, utter one more word and I will hold you in contempt of court, he commanded. A quiet gasp filled the courtroom, and I noticed Kathy's face, pale and tightly pressed. The judge looked at me over his glasses with narrowed eyes, pausing carefully as if measuring each word. Mr. Porter, the judge said firmly, while I understand your feelings, this court must consider all aspects, including the emotional well-being of everyone involved. I am ordering both of you to attend counseling sessions as a final attempt to resolve these issues constructively. I will not join. I frowned deeply. I am ordering a month of therapy, with 2 sessions each week. You will attend, Mr. Porter, no exceptions. He stared at me for a moment, then slammed his gavel once again. That settles the issue. 1 week later, the room was silent and tense, filled with a heavy atmosphere of things left unsaid. The counselor, a man in his middle years with a calm demeanor and glasses perched on the edge of his nose, faced us, hands resting lightly on a notepad. Kathy sat beside me, her eyes cast downward, nervously twisting the fabric of her sweater. Then Kathy spoke, her voice shaky. I just want to say don't. I reacted sharply, my tone cold and cutting. Stay quiet. I do not want to hear a single word you have to say. The counselor, Mr. Hensley, shifted his eyes between us, keeping his expression steady yet attentive. Ben, I know this is hard, but we are here to try to open a dialogue. Even if it feels uneasy, speaking up can help us move forward. Will you try? I crossed my arms, grinding my teeth. I am here only because the judge demanded it, not because I want to talk. I will be present, but I am not required to participate. A brief pause lingered as Mr. Hensley's gaze searched for any sign of willingness. When none emerged, he let out a gentle breath and shifted his notepad slightly. I understand this is difficult, but communication remains an essential step toward comprehension, even if it does not lead to reconciliation. 1 hour, then. Very well, doctor. That concludes the session. Are we meeting again on Thursday? I am canceling the upcoming appointments and sending my report to the judge. Better yet, I have already left the office. The judge was visibly unhappy. Give me one solid reason why I should not charge your client with contempt. He growled at my lawyer. Your Honor, you ordered my client to attend these sessions. He was present for the first one as required. It was the counselor who canceled the rest. The counselor's report clearly states that my client made no effort to engage during the sessions. He wore headphones and was unresponsive the entire time. The judge responded. The order was for him to attend, my attorney argued, and he did attend. Since the counselor felt further sessions were futile, I respectfully request the divorce be granted as outlined in the petition, for goodness sake. The judge proclaimed, I am ordering 4 weeks of counseling. Mr. Porter will participate fully and cooperate. The office looked exactly as it had when I arrived. 2 chairs positioned about a foot apart faced the doctor's desk, where he sat behind it. The desk held nothing but a yellow legal pad and a photograph featuring a beautiful woman who looked to be in her mid-30s, accompanied by a child who appeared to be about 6 years old. Mr. Porter, the doctor addressed me. Please take a seat. Once more, I started to pull the chair closer. Kathy quickly stretched out her hand to stop me, and I pulled back sharply. If you dare touch me, I will consider it an attack and will strike you hard in the stomach. Do you understand? She gasped and retreated. I continued to move the chair and then sat down. Again, I took out my phone. Mr. Porter, the judge has ordered your presence at this meeting. I am aware, I responded calmly. I am using my phone to record the meeting as evidence of my attendance. My lawyer told me some counselors might have their own agendas. Since my soon-to-be ex-wife has been seeing you for quite some time, I worry that you could have developed a relationship with her that might conflict with my interests. Mr. Hensley, the counselor, tilted his head slightly. And what if I do not consent to you recording the sessions? He asked, composed but straightforward. Then I will go back to court and request a different counselor, I said firmly. That option is available to me. The only reason I have not done it yet is to avoid causing more delays. I just want this case to be over as soon as possible. Mr. Hensley then turned his attention to Kathy, who sat with her arms folded, looking away. Kathy, how do you feel about having the sessions recorded? She shrugged without lifting her eyes much. It does not matter, she said with a hint of impatience, waving her hand dismissively. Can we just get started? The mood in the room seemed to ease, a hesitant understanding settling over all of us. Very well, Mr. Hensley said, folding his hands in front of him. Before we start, I need to clarify something. I cut in, my voice cold. May I ask a question? Certainly, he responded calmly. You may ask questions whenever you want. I may ask you to hold off at times, but for now feel free. He gave a slight smile that I did not return. Have you been physically involved with her yet? I asked bluntly. Kathy gasped sharply, the sudden noise filling the space, but Mr. Hensley stayed impassive. No, Ben, he answered calmly. Kathy and I have not engaged in, nor will we engage in, any kind of physical relationship. That would be completely inappropriate, especially since I am already very happily married. Does that clear things up? I observed him for a moment before nodding. I believed him, even though Kathy seemed to have been involved with nearly every man she had met over the past year. Very well, then. Mr. Hensley continued with ease. As I said before, I want to start by clarifying our expectations. Since I have already spoken with Kathy several times, I would like her to share what she hopes to achieve through these sessions and what results she wishes for. After she finishes, please hold back any comments or questions. Once Kathy has expressed her goals, I will ask you to do the same. My darkest wish is for her to contract an incurable illness and endure a slow, painful death so that I can visit her grave and spit on it. That is the deepest longing I carry inside. Mr. Hensley shook his head and looked at Kathy, who appeared visibly shaken by my words. Speak to me, Kathy, Mr. Hensley said gently. Tell me what you want Ben to understand. Kathy took a shaky breath, her voice wavering as she began. I want him to know how truly sorry I am for the pain I caused him. I realize now that what I did was wrong, but it happened because he spent so many hours at work and away on business trips, and I felt incredibly lonely. I see the hurt I brought upon him. If I had the chance to turn back time and correct my mistakes, I would do anything to repair what I damaged. I love him more than anything in this world. I believe we can get through this if he would just give me a chance. I want to prove to him that I can be the best wife any man could ever hope for. We could raise our child together, provide him with a joyful life, and maybe even have another sibling. I want us to be a family again. I genuinely believe we can overcome this. Mr. Hensley gave a slight nod, his smile warm and reassuring. Thank you, Kathy. Now, Ben, what would you like to share? She could scribble her feelings on a piece of paper, then roll it up and push it down so deep that swallowing became difficult. Her emotions mean nothing to me, and in my eyes, she is already gone. Kathy began to sob and quickly left the room. As she ran out, I muttered under my breath, I hope you crash and never make it. That was not very kind, Mr. Hensley observed calmly, though a trace of concern softened his voice. I don't care about kindness, I snapped back. That deceitful, unfaithful woman fooled half the town for almost a year, got pregnant, and then tried to convince me the child was mine. If I hadn't been suspicious enough to demand a DNA test, I would be supporting someone else's kid right now. Tell me, doctor, how exactly am I supposed to act? It's normal to feel angry, Ben, Mr. Hensley replied steadily. But you must look beyond the anger to remember what once existed. I shot him a sharp look, barely containing my rage. Do you even understand what you're saying? I retorted. Have you ever known the love of your life? The person you trusted with every part of your being, the one you would go to any lengths to protect, then betrays you so profoundly that you begin to question your own sanity? How can someone who says they love you inflict such deep wounds that you feel pushed to the brink of giving up everything? And have you noticed she has never once sincerely apologized for her actions? Not for her involvement with countless men, not for the endless lies, not for getting pregnant without even knowing who the father is. The only thing I am certain of is that it was not the man who should have been the father. Me. So don't sit there with your self-righteous attitude and your textbook advice telling me to release my anger. Right now, my anger is the only thing keeping me going. Just let me remove this cheating 3004 from my life so I can attempt to gather the shattered pieces left behind by her chaos. I stood up, looking squarely at Mr. Hensley. Does that count as taking part? I snapped, then turned and walked away. I asked Kathy if we could have this session without her being there, Mr. Hensley said as I entered his office the following week. I believe we might achieve better progress one-on-one for the time being, provided it still complies with the court-ordered counseling rules. I would rather not share a room with that woman, I replied, placing an official envelope on my lap as I sat down. Can we please avoid name-calling? It does no good and only creates obstacles, he responded calmly. I am not here for any meaningful discussions. I just want to get through these meetings and finally remove that unfaithful person from my life for good. I never wished to be in this situation. She is determined to hurt me as much as possible. She has no interest in the divorce because the prenuptial agreement would leave her with nothing. So she is trying to force me into taking her back. That will not happen. And what about the child? Mr. Hensley insisted. The child is innocent. Surely, the child should not suffer because of this. I do not care about that kid at all. By your logic, I would have to accept every stray who lost control and became pregnant. Those children are not my responsibility, and neither is this one. Why are you so convinced that there is only one possible outcome here? He asked calmly. You clearly cared for her deeply. Such strong feelings don't just vanish overnight. Right now your anger is blinding you, but once it subsides, and believe me, it will, you will realize there are still emotions to work with. Emotions that might help rebuild your relationship, possibly make it even stronger. That foolish grin came back, and I felt like punching him. It was time to give him a taste of his own medicine. I pointed at the photo on his desk. You have a beautiful family, I said. How long have you been married? We are not here to discuss my personal life. If I recall correctly, it has been 11 years. Childhood sweetheart, married soon after college. waited some time before having children, and then little Ethan was born. How old is he now? That picture must have been taken several years ago. How did you? He started to ask. But did you know that your beloved Cheryl has her own hidden secrets? I continued. Were you aware that when she tells you she is at Pilates class on Wednesdays while you are working, she is actually at the Motel 8 on Patterson, involved with her personal trainer? That is completely ridiculous, he stammered. Yet I could see he was shaken. His face had gone very pale. Truly, I said, pulling out several photographs from the envelope and spreading them out on his desk one by one. They showed a slender woman entering a hotel room with a young muscular man, his arm around her waist as they gazed at each other tenderly. Then I produced a DVD and slammed it down as well. There is footage from inside the room if you want undeniable proof of what took place. It is quite explicit, so I would strongly advise against watching it. I made that mistake when I received my private investigator's report. Those images will haunt me forever. He looked as if he might become ill. Oh, and one more thing, I added, pulling out a DNA report from the envelope. No, he whispered softly. Please, God, no. It appears the fitness trainer is not the first. I guess he is too young to be Ethan's father, but whoever the father is, it certainly isn't you, I whispered. Suddenly he jumped up and hurried toward what I assumed was a bathroom beside his office. I could hear him retching violently. Now do you get it? I asked once he finally slumped back into his chair, tears rolling down his face. He looked at me with eyes emptied of spirit. Can you understand the pain she caused me and why I have to remove her from my life? I pressed him. He gave a weary nod, completely defeated. Good, I said with a faint smile. There is just one more thing you need to grasp. His face drained of all color as he looked at me, filled with dread. There is something else? He asked, his voice heavy with anguish. It is all a lie, I answered sharply. Nothing I showed you is real. From what I can tell, your wife is just as devoted and caring as you believed, and Ethan is truly your child. But the photos, he stammered. Photoshop, I said grimly. Amazing what can be done with some Facebook posts and a bit of time and effort. If you had them checked by anyone with a bit of common sense, they would see they are all fakes. I pulled out the originals I had made them from. The DVD? He asked, trembling. Blank, I said without warmth. And the DNA report is actually the one linked to that unfaithful woman's child, I explained calmly, only changing the names and dates. I watched as his expression shifted from perplexity to shock. He sat frozen, stunned, fresh tears beginning to stream down his face. Why would you do something like this? What could you possibly expect to achieve by tearing apart my marriage and ruining my life? He asked, his voice breaking with emotion. That was never what I wanted, I responded sharply. That is why I told you right away it was all fabricated. I never meant for you or your family to suffer lasting harm. What I wished for was for you, even once, to truly feel the pain I endured, the heartbreak, the fury, and the hurt. You experienced a glimpse of it briefly. I live with it every day. Your brief agony has become my permanent reality. Having to sit here with that woman, listen to her ramble about how she loves me and wants me back, forces me to relive the torment over and over. There are laws against cruel and unusual punishment. Why do they not protect me in this case? I just want to move on, rebuild my life, and find peace. Why is it so hard for you and the courts to let me have that freedom? I started gathering the papers from the table and carefully placed them back inside the envelope. I will leave this for you to manage, I said, my tone softening just a bit. I sincerely regret having to take this step, but it was necessary for you to understand the situation. Your Honor, I have the report from the court-mandated counseling sessions that my client attended, my lawyer stated, addressing the judge with a mix of respect and urgency. I also possess a copy, the judge grumbled, his eyes narrowing as he skimmed through the paperwork. It appears the counselor has already concluded that this marriage cannot be saved after only 3 sessions out of the required 8. For the well-being of everyone involved, especially the child, the most reasonable choice would be to let it end. Yes, Your Honor, I respectfully request that you approve the divorce as petitioned, my attorney pressed. The judge held his gaze on me for a prolonged moment. I kept my eyes locked forward, avoiding his stare, unwilling to reveal the turmoil I was feeling inside. At last, he pronounced, "So be it," pounding his gavel with a sound that echoed through the courtroom. As he reviewed the financial statements before him, the judge announced his ruling in a voice that made it clear the matter was grave. "There will be no alimony," he stated, looking up at us. "Miss Kathy earns more than Mr. Porter, and each party will retain the assets they brought into the marriage. The remaining amount would be divided equally. Without any alimony, I would no longer be financially connected to Kathy." She had lost her job, which did not surprise me in the slightest. One of her lovers happened to be a client, and I could only imagine the turmoil that must have ensued. I couldn't help but smirk at the irony of her situation. Then, just when I believed things could not get more ridiculous, I discovered she had taken legal action against 7 men, demanding the court-order DNA testing. I was completely shocked. There she was, dragging multiple men into this chaos, all to determine who was the father of her child. The results of those tests triggered a series of events I never anticipated. The news quickly spread. All 7 wives of the men Kathy had been involved with filed for divorce. I felt a dark thrill at the chaos she had ignited. It was like karma spinning out of control, and I was simply witnessing the storm. The latest update I heard was that one enraged wife confronted Kathy at the courthouse and attacked her physically. The image of her breaking Kathy's nose somehow seemed fittingly poetic. After everything Kathy had done, seeing her face swollen and bruised felt like some kind of cosmic justice. I have to confess, I nearly laughed when I first heard about it. Feeling sorry for her was out of the question by then. She had completely upended my life, and now she was facing the repercussions of her choices. Even though Kathy had given birth to her child, it didn't alter my feelings toward her or the entire situation. The legal battle involving those 7 men was still dragging on in the courts, and I wondered how much longer it would take before everything finally reached a conclusion. Honestly, I was just grateful to be free from that madness. One afternoon, Kathy showed up at my place unexpectedly, her face a strange combination of desperation and entitlement. From the moment she walked in, it was obvious she had a single aim: to convince me to marry her again. She launched into a flood of claims about how much she had changed, how deeply she regretted her past mistakes, and how much she still loved me. It was almost laughable considering everything that had happened. I stood firm, refusing to be drawn in once more. "Kathy, this is over. We are done. You made your choices, and now you must face the consequences." I spoke with resolve, striving to remain calm, but she refused to step back. Her determination only grew, her voice rising with every sentence, trying to make me feel guilty about the idea of making amends. Just then, Nancy, my girlfriend, appeared from the kitchen. She must have sensed the tension immediately because she didn't hesitate to face Kathy head-on. "You have to leave." "You are not welcome here," she stated firmly, her tone icy and unwavering. Kathy's reaction was explosive. She unleashed a storm of verbal attacks, throwing venomous remarks aimed at diminishing Nancy, clearly believing she still held the power to intimidate. I saw Nancy's gaze harden as Kathy's insults kept coming. A surge of protectiveness rushed through me, but I knew Kathy was unpredictable and didn't want to escalate things further. Then everything erupted. In a burst of rage, Kathy lunged at Nancy, intending to hit her, a grave mistake. Nancy, no stranger to self-defense, quickly evaded Kathy's wild strike and retaliated with fierce force. She kicked her and slammed her down onto the floor. I stood there, partly shocked and partly amazed as Nancy swiftly took control. She was unstoppable, while Kathy, who had always relied on manipulation, was visibly overwhelmed. Before long, Nancy had Kathy pinned to the ground, her anger radiating powerfully. Witnessing Kathy, the woman who once ruled so much of my life, brought down like this felt unreal. I could hardly believe what I was seeing. Get out of our lives right now, Kathy. You don't belong here, Nancy yelled. Amid the turmoil, I reached for my phone and called the police. By that time, Kathy was screaming loudly, but no one was paying attention. The officers arrived soon after, and Nancy calmly explained the entire situation. They came quickly and assessed everything at once. Kathy, still defiant, tried to put on a show, claiming she was the one wronged, but the officers saw through her lies almost immediately. As they handcuffed her and led her away, I felt a strange mix of emotions: relief, satisfaction, and a deep sense of closure. This moment marked the end of an era in my life. The last remnants of her toxic presence were being removed from my world. I looked at Nancy, who was still shaking from the adrenaline rush. "You were incredible," I told her, thankful she was by my side. "Just doing what had to be done," she replied with a slight smile. In that instant, I knew I had made the right choice. I was ready to leave the past behind and embrace a future with someone who truly valued me, someone who would never try to tear me down. Our story comes to an end here. Share your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for taking the time to watch. If you enjoyed this story, please check out other videos on this channel. See you soon, my dear friend.